Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our multi-module crash course series, and in this part we are gonna complete our movie detail screen. So in our first part we actually complete this first screen, which is movie list screen, and now we will complete our movie detail screen. So when you click any of this movie, you will see the complete movie detail of that particular movie. So we'll see how to do this, and we also see the navigation part, which is super important and super exciting for them who doesn't perform any kind of navigation in multi-module application. So let's get started and dig into deep how to create this movie detail screen. So let's get started. I wanna say you happy Holi because today is Holi. Celebrate very well with your friends and families. Okay, so for that we need to look into our REST API. So this is our REST API, and this REST API requires the movie ID. So first I'm gonna copy this, come back to our project, and within our API service which is present in our network module, I'm gonna write a function. So this is a get method, and within this I'm gonna pass movie slash the ID. So ID is dynamic, so that's why I am using pair of parentheses and pass our ID. So this ID is actually we're gonna pass during the runtime. Suspend function get movie details. So in order to pass this ID at runtime we use path, and within this path make sure the name which you put here is exactly same. So this is the ID in a form of string, and the second one is API key. So our API key is passed in a form of query. So I'm gonna create a query for that, pass our API underscore key, and here our API key. Okay, so what is the return type of this function? So in order to generate a return type, go back to your API, hit this API, you're gonna get this response, and I'm gonna use this response and format it very well here with the help of JSON formatter.org. So I'm gonna copy all these thing, come back in our project, and within this model I'm gonna create a new model for that. So paste all these thing, and here I'm gonna call this movie details DTO generate class. Okay, so this is our movie details DTO. Go back to your API service, and the return type of this is movie details DTO. It's time to write our data providers. So go in our data providers package, and within this we have movie data providers, and I'm gonna create one function within this get movie details. Okay, so first parameter is our string, and the second one is our API key. Okay, and this will access our API service, not API key. API service get movie details, pass your ID and your API key. Okay, so by doing this we actually complete the implementation of our network module. It's time to go in our movie details feature. So first I want to jump in our domain layer, and within our domain layer I'm going to create few packages. So the first package is our repository package, and within this I'm gonna create one more package naming use cases, and after that we need our dependency injection, and yeah, I think this is all we need to create. Now within our repository I'm gonna create a interface naming movie details repo. Okay, so this is an interface, and within this I'm going to create a suspend function naming get movie details. All right, so first parameter is our ID, second one is our API key. Okay, and the return type will be movie details. So this movie details is actually refer our domain layer model. So in order to create this movie details, create a new package, and the package name would be model, and within this model I'm going to create a data class, and the name of data class will be of course the movie details. And within this I'm gonna require few parameters like the movie title, its description, and its image URL. I'm gonna make it very simple for you. So yeah, these three things I need. So movie details contain title, description, and image URL. That's it. Go back to your repository now, import this. All right, so now we are going to implement this interface in our data layer. So in order to access movie details repository in our data layer, we first connect our data layer to domain layer. Otherwise, a data layer doesn't know about this repository. So go back to your build.gradle of your data layer. So here we have our movie details data layer, and within this I'm gonna connect this module basically to our domain layer module. So implementation project, and within this we have feature, and the feature name is movie details, and I want to connect with our domain layer. Sync this. Okay, so I'm gonna copy paste all this dependency from our movie feature data module build.gradle. So we have here now, copy all these dependencies and paste here. And one more thing, we require some plugins because I'm gonna use Dagger-Hilt in here. So for that, again go back to your movie feature data module and copy this plugins, come back and add those plugins. One more thing, we also require our core network module because within this we have our data providers. So also we need to connect that. So in order to connect that, we have our core, and within this core we have network module. Now sync it, and after that we will continue writing our data layer data module code. So now go back to your movie details data layer, and within this I'm gonna create few packages. Of course, the first one is our repository, second one is our mapper. So this mapper is actually used to map, or you can say modify, our DTO in the form of our domain layer model. So I'm gonna create this. So first I will implement our movie details repository. So create a class, and the class name is movie details repo implementation. Movie details repository. Okay, so now implement the get movie details. We require our data providers, so I'm gonna inject data providers here. So private val movie data providers, import this inject, and it's time to use our movie data providers. So movie data providers dot get movie details, pass your ID and API key and return this. Okay, so the return type, I think the return type is movie details DTO, but we need movie details. So I'm gonna create a file within our mappers, and the file name is mappers, and within this I'm gonna create a function, extension function basically. So movie details DTO to domain. Return type of this is movie details, return movie details. So we need title. So first I will use the title parameters, and within this I'm using this dot original title. Okay, the second one is our description. So this dot we have overview, and we have our image URL. So this dot poster path. So this is actually containing the poster path. We need the URL. So we already did this conversion in our movie feature. So I'm gonna use that thing here. So within our movie feature we have data module, and within this data module we have our mappers, and within this mapper we actually use this function to convert that poster path to URL. So I'm gonna copy this, come back here, and sorry, not here, within our mapper, and paste this function. I'm gonna use this function make full URL and pass our this dot poster path. Okay, now I'm gonna use this to domain in our movie details repository. This is the complete implementation of our movie details repository. Now within our data module I'm gonna create a package for dependency injection and create a module. So the module is data module object. I'm gonna install in singleton component. this is a module, so annotate this thing with module, and it's time to provide. So provide our movie detail repo, movie details repository, return our implementation simply. So the requirement of this repository implementation is movie data providers, so use it. So movie data providers, pass movie data providers here. By doing this, we actually inject our movie details repository where we need. Alright, so now come back in our domain layer, and within our domain layer we have our use cases. So within our use cases, I'm gonna create a class, and the class name is movie detail use case. So movie detail use case. So actually we wanna get the movie details, so the use case name will be get movie detail use case. This is a class. In our use case, I'm gonna create an operator function invoke, and it require ID and our API key, and the return type will be flow, and this flow contain the UI event, and actual data is movie details. I'm gonna use my flow builder, and within this flow builder, first I'm gonna emit our loading event. So we have UI event dot loading, and if everything goes well, I'm gonna again use this emit UI event dot success, and within this success we use our repository. So in order to use our repository, I'm gonna use constructor injection and pass our repository here. So we have movie details repo, import this. Okay, so library is not imported in our build.gradle. So in order to use Dagger-Hilt here, I'm gonna copy paste the required dependency in our build.gradle, paste here, and we also need to add these plugins. So add those plugins, sync your project, come back to your get movie detail use case. Now after the syncing, inject is available, and now use our movie details repository, get movie detail, pass your ID and API key. And by the way, if any error occur during the communication from our server, we use this catch, and within this catch I'm also emit some UI event, and this time the UI event would be error. So we pass the error message, and I wanna execute this flow in our dispatcher.io. Okay, so this is the complete implementation of our get movie detail use case. Now I wanna provide this use case for our view model, which is present in our UI layer. So for that, again I'm gonna use my Dagger-Hilt Dependency Injection framework, and within this DI package I'm gonna create our UI module. So this is an object, and I'm gonna install this thing in our singleton component class, and lastly annotate this with module and provide this. So provide function provide get movie detail use case. So our get movie detail use case require the movie details repository. So pass here, return type would be get movie detail use case, and simply return this. Alright, so this is the implementation of our use case. So we actually complete our data layer and domain layer. Now it's time to move on with our UI layer. So we need few dependencies in our build.gradle. So we already did everything in our movie feature UI layer. So I'm gonna copy everything, or you can say every dependency from our movie feature UI layer. So this is our movie feature UI layer build.gradle. So all the dependencies I'm gonna copy and paste in our movie details UI layer. So in order to use compose, we need few things in our Android. So within our Android we need few things in order to use Jetpack Compose in our UI layer. So go back to your feature movie UI layer, and here we have packaging option, compose option, build feature, and Kotlin option. Copy this, come back to your movie details feature UI layer, and just paste the copied thing. Write the plugin for our Dagger-Hilt, so that is why it will throw me an error. So write the plugins for your Dagger-Hilt. So copy this, come back to your UI layer and paste, sync again. So Gradle build sync successfully. Now I wanna come back in our UI layer and create few packages. So the first package would be related to our navigation. Then the second package we have which contain our screens, and yep, the last one would be our Dagger-Hilt. So within our navigation I'm gonna create a object, and the object name would be internal movie details API, and this is actually implement the feature API. Implement this. Okay, so we have register graph function within this feature API. Now it's time to implement this. So I'm gonna use my nav graph builder navigation, and we need to pass a route and the start destination, and within this we utilize this composable function, and within this composable we pass the route. So I'm gonna use few constant to store all the start destination route and everything, which we already did in our movie feature. So within our core we have common, and within this common we have navigation constant package, and within this we have navigation constant. So just like this I'm gonna create one more object, and this time the object name would be movie details feature const well. So the first thing is our nested route. So I'm gonna name this movie details nested route, and the second one is our screen route. So we have movie detail screen route. Now this route is movie details, and in order to pass ID as an argument we use slash and then after pair of parentheses, and within this we pass our ID. Okay, so in order to use this, go back to your internal movie details API, and here first I wanna use my movie, not movie feature, it's movie detail feature, and within this we have our movie details nested route. So pass our nested route, and the start destination would be movie detail screen route. Okay, so copy this, paste in our composable, and within this we have to pass our screen which we want to render when the route is movie detail screen route. So first I wanna take back the ID from our argument. So we have it dot arguments get string pass your key which is ID, and after that we will create a screen, and that screen is going to be passed within this composable block. So it will render that screen in our user interface. Okay, so this is the implementation of our internal movie details API. In this navigation I want to create a file, and the file name would be movie details API. So this is a file, and within this file we have interface, and the interface name is movie detail API which use our feature API. And now it's time to implement this movie detail API. So I'm going to create a class, and the class name would be movie details API implementation. We already did everything in our movie feature. So if you got any confusion, so watch the part first again, so it will help you to understand very well what I am doing right now. So now it will implement this movie details API. So it also contains the register graph, and this time I will utilize my internal movie details API dot register graph and pass everything. Okay, and I will provide this implementation with Dagger-Hilt so that we will use this in our app module. So within our Dagger-Hilt package, I'm gonna create a object, and the object name would be UI module. Install in singleton component, and within this we provide our movie detail API. Return type would be movie detail API, and we return the implementation. That's it. Okay, so this is a part in which we completed our navigation thing for movie details feature, for movie details UI layer. Now it's time to implement our screen package. So in screen package we have two things, our view model and our Jetpack compose screen. So first I'm gonna create my view model, which is movie details view model, and it will extend the view model. Import this view model, and I'm gonna use constructor injection, and within this constructor I'm gonna pass private while my use case. So get movie detail use case. Okay, import this inject, and one more thing, in your build.gradle we actually use this implementation project for movie. Okay, so make sure to change this implementation project to feature movie details domain. Okay, otherwise you will access the movie feature domain layer, which doesn't contain our movie detail use case. Now come back to your movie detail view model. So the first thing, I'm going to create a stakeholder class. So stakeholder class is actually used to manage our Jetpack compose screen states. So this is our data class, and the name would be movie detail state holder, and within this we have variable is loading, type boolean, initial value false, second would be error, type string, and initial value would be empty, last one is our data, and this time the data would be movie details, and I'm gonna initialize this with null. Come back to your movie details view model, and within this I'm going to create a private while underscore movie details, and initialize this with mutable state of the movie details state holder, and I'm going to create a variable which we used in our Jetpack compose screen. So the name would be movie details, and this time this is a state which contain our movie detail state holder, and initialize this with upper movie details. So by doing this, our movie details is not changeable outside from the view model. And I'm going to create a function naming get movie details, and within this we pass our ID form of string. What happened to me? And the second one is our API key, also type of string. Okay, and within this I'm gonna utilize my get movie detail use case, pass our ID and API key, and on each emission. So basically this on is trigger every time when our use case uses emit, and I'm gonna launch this in view model scope. So this will give me a UI event. So I'm gonna use when, pass our it, check the type of our UI event. So we have three types. So the first one is our loading. Okay, so during the time of loading I'm gonna update my movie detail mutable state with movie detail state holder, and I'm gonna convert this is loading to true. Okay, similarly we have error. So this error is coming from our UI event, make sure, and this time I'm gonna copy this, paste here, and message from our use case. So pass that message in our movie detail value. We have success event. So UI event success, if it is success case, that means we receive successfully data from our backend, and this time we pass data it dot data. that's it. This is a use of our get movie details. Alright, so I'm gonna use init block here, and within this init we actually use save state handle. So in order to use save state handle, pass that save state handle here. Okay, save state handle, so it will contain the information of our argument which we sent from movie screen to movie detail screen. So I'm gonna use save state handle dot, and here you will see we have get. So instead of using get, I'm gonna use get live data. So we receive the data type string. This is the key would be id, because we pass id as a parameter to our route, and I'm gonna observe this forever. And when we receive successfully the id, I'm gonna first check this is not null, and then after I call the get movie details. Okay, pass our id and our API key. So make sure you pass your own API key. Complete implementation of our view model. Now it's time to write our composable screens. So I'm gonna create a new file, and the file name would be movie detail screen. This is a file, and this file contain composable naming movie detail screen, and input would be id, which is a type of string, and second one is our view model, which is a type of movie detail view model. First thing, I'm going to create a variable naming result and utilize my view model dot movie details value. We have scaffold, and I want a top app bar, so create a top app bar, and within this top app bar we have title. So the title contains the text composable which has text naming movie details. Okay, so in order to remove this error, we want to use the padding values. So I'm gonna use logcat so that the error would be not appear again. Alright, so I'm gonna use this result variable. So result dot, if it is a loading case, so first we'll check if result is loading. If it is the case, I'm going to create a box and use modifier fill max size, and make sure our content alignment is on the center, and show a circular progress indicator. Import this modifier. So this is a case of loading. If our result dot error is not blank, that means we got some error from our REST API. So I'm gonna use box modifier fill max size and make sure my content alignment is on the center, and I'm gonna use within this a text, and that text contain the message. So basically result error. Okay, so these two case is for our loading and for our error. Now it's time to write our success use case. So if, or you can say the result dot data is not null. Okay, so if it is not null, I'm gonna create a column. Okay, and I'm gonna use modifier to use the complete size, or you can say utilize the whole screen fill max size, and within this I'm gonna make this column scrollable. So I'm gonna use vertical scroll and pass remember scroll state. Okay, and within this I'm gonna use coil image library. So I already add dependency for that in our build.gradle. So here you will see coil image library. So I'm gonna utilize this in our screen. So we have something called async image, and within this we need to pass our URL. So it dot image URL, and within our content description I pass null, and I'm gonna use modifier to provide the height and width. So the width would be fill max width, and the height would be 300 dp. Okay, so after that we have content scale. So I wanna use crop, content scale crop. Okay, so this is a async image. Now within this, or so below to async image, I'm gonna create a box modifier fill max just below to our async image, I'm going to create a box, modifier fill max width, and within this I'm gonna again create a column, modifier fill max width, and I'm gonna create two text. So the first text which actually show the title, so we have it dot title, and below to this title we have it dot description. That's it. And I'm gonna use style for that, which is coming from our material theme dot typography dot body1, and for our title I'm gonna use h5. Okay, so now I'm gonna use this movie detail screen in our navigation. So within our internal movie details API, we need to pass our movie detail screen. So it require ID, so pass ID to string, and in place of view model I'm gonna create a variable naming view model and use hilt view model to initialize this. Okay, pass the type which is movie details view model. That's it, pass your view model here. Okay, so this is a complete implementation of our movie details feature. Okay, now I'm gonna use this thing in our app module. So go back to your app module. So first thing first, in our build.gradle app module, build.gradle module app level, copy this implementation project, paste here, and you need to did this thing for our movie details. If you don't do this, your Dagger-Hilt won't work. You will get a compile time errors. Sync now. Now go back to your app module navigation, and within this navigation we have navigation provider. Okay, so here I'm gonna pass my movie details API. So movie details API, and also in our dependency injection module we need to pass our movie details. So movie details, I think now you got a complete idea why we use movie details API. Okay, so pass this movie detail API and go to your app navigation, and here we have our nav host, and within this nav host we have navigation providers movie API, which actually register our movie API within this nav host. Now I'm gonna use this navigation provider dot movie details API, use register graph, and pass our nav controller and graph builder. That's it. So we successfully add our movie details nested navigation in our nav host. Okay, now it's time to route from our movie screen to movie detail screen. Okay, so in order to do that, go to your movie feature, and within this go to your UI, and within your UI we have our screen. So go back to your screen, which is movie screen, and here we need to create a clickable event. So within our list item, so we have our list item only async image. So within this async image I'm gonna use modifier clickable. Okay, so we need a nav controller, so we didn't have nav controller in our screen, so we need to pass that in our movie screen. So go to your internal movie feature API, and within our movie screen pass this nav controller. Come back to your movie screen and add that argument here, nav controller. Go back to your clickable event, nav controller dot navigate, and here you need to pass your route. So it is movie details slash the ID. So we need to pass the ID. So in order to pass ID, it dot image URL. So it actually contain only the image URL, because in our mapper class we only use image URL. So in order to use this route we need to pass the ID. So ID is not present right now in our domain layer object. So I'm gonna change few things in our domain layer and data layer. So within our domain layer we have model, and within this model we have our movie. So make sure add ID here, and go back to your data layer of movie feature, and within this we have mapper classes. so which actually pass this poster path. Now we also pass the id of our movie, so it dot id. Make sure to convert this into string. Now go back to your movie screen, and now you will have the access of id. Okay, so this is all you need to do in order to route from this movie screen to movie detail screen. That's it. Alright, so now everything is set. I think I need to run this application. Our app executed successfully. I also search Harry Potter in them, and when I click any of the movie, you will see the movie details. Okay, so this is a complete implementation of our movie detail feature. Okay, so I made few very small mistakes, which is the first one is here. So I forgot to add 3 in our endpoint, so make sure you add that. And also in our movie detail view model, I forgot to add @hilt view model, so this will give me an error. So if you're facing that error too, so please complete everything and then execute our application. It works very well. This is the last part of our multi-module crash course series. I hope you like this video, and if you like this video, subscribe to my channel and also buy me a super thanks. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for your time.